Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Rare Gems and Cuts. I'm your host, CliffB. This is an opportunity for me and my guests to share some of the joy, the power of music. Today, I have a very special gem that I want to share with you. And let me just say this, I have not seen her in many, many years. I've had the opportunity of working with her. And she's here to share some of her wow musical moments and to share some other things in her life. I have had a lot of people over the years say, "What, where is she?" So on and so forth. So today I'm real fortunate to have her on here. So without any further ado, let me introduce a mother, a poet, a writer, a fabulous person, and I'm going to let her expand on her other titles, and an actress that I had the opportunity of working with, Miss CYNDA Williams. Welcome,
Oh,
CYNDA.
thank you. Thank you. It's
Welcome.
so good to see
Welcome.
your beautiful face. One of my
Thank you.
favorite people in the world.
Thank you for being here today. So yeah, expand. Do me a favor. Expand on your list of things because I know I left some things out, right? So you have a litany of list of things to share with people as to what you've been up to and what your life is about. What did I miss?
well, well, first of all, I'm gonna just say I'm an artist, and that kind of is everything. That kind of wraps it up in everything. But I use my artistry for a few things. I'm all those things that you said, and I'm also a singer. That was what I did before I did anything.
Did I not say singer? Oh my
You did
goodness.
not say singer. This is a music show.
I
But
know.
no, I didn't say singer. That's what I did before I did anything else. That's what let me know I had a gift. I'm also a screenplay writer. And,
Okay.
but more than anything, one of the primary reasons uh, I did any of this on a professional level is because I'm an activist. Um, I am someone that is not afraid to speak up about what I believe is truth and to speak up for people. And I have this um, psychologist in me.
Mhm.
I am a people person. I love people, and I am I'm educated in sociology and the behaviors of people, and I actually am a hypnotherapist, not practicing, but I'm
Okay.
a hypnotherapist because every time I did a movie beyond Mo Better, it really wasn't in Mo Better, but beyond Mo Better, I was the set shrink all the time. That's what people always called me
The
because when
session.
things were happening, when people were going through things, they came to me and talked to me, and I would give them my opinions and advice, and would listen to them, and so that became a thing. But it became an overwhelming thing because I just had a natural gift and no education, so I went back to school so I could get some training and protect myself when in that position and protect those that I was speaking to so that I was speaking from a place of actual knowledge and not just instinct.
Right. And
So,
empathy.
exactly. But it's all, it all stems from my training as a person to serve the community. As a child, I grew up in the church, and not just a church that had a club with people that alienated themselves from others and judged others. The church that I grew up in was all about helping the community, loving people, being inclusive, and being someone that stood up for those that had less than me. I've been very blessed. I mean, I didn't grow up rich or anything like that, but I grew up rich in love. I had many people that loved me in my family.
Let me. I
So
just want to.
I was
I,
proud to
wa-
share it.
Listen, I just want to go back to a little something you said.
Hmm.
Obviously, have you been like that all your life in terms of wanting to help people because of your particular traumas in life, or when did that blossom out for you as a
Well,
person?
I was very shy. I was a very shy person because I experienced some really hard things as a child. very traumatic sexual abuse, um, being a victim for years. So I was very shy, but at the same time, I could get up in front of people at 10 years old and preach.
Okay.
I was a child, especially in my teens. When I moved to Indiana, I became a speaker. So you put me in a room of a crowded group, and I could speak from the heart about what I believed. Put me in a room with a single person, a complete stranger, and I can listen to their story at a very young age. I was also the shrink in my elementary school. I was friends with everybody. All
Mhm.
the kids came to me singularly. I was not a part of any group. I was a part of all the groups. The
Mhm.
jocks liked me because I was athletic. The comedic people liked me because I could be quietly funny.
Mhm.
The creative types loved me because I was creative. The nerds loved me because I loved to learn. So I wasn't in a part of any one group, but I was damaged. So if
Mhm.
you put me in a party, I would hide in a corner and read a book because I did not know how to deal with those circumstances because I was on a stage, I was one on one, but I was never a part of a group. I didn't have a big group of friends. I was singularly friends with one person here, one person there, and everybody liked me, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't go to the parties. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I didn't do any of those things. So I wasn't comfortable in that environment. Now I can hang anywhere. But it took therapy and really deep self reflection and really getting in tune with my spirit and God and having conversations with myself to get to the point where I was comfortable in every circumstance. But I'm there now.
That it's really interesting you kind of brought that up because obviously I want to talk about a lot of things that have gone on in your life and my experience with you and stuff like that. Um, I just want to let everybody know too, I have to give a little disclosure here that obviously our working relationship, we go from many, many years ago to the first project that I worked on, and I think it was your first film project called Mo Better Blues. So I just want to give that disclosure to people. I was the person that created your hair looks for Mo Better Blues.
Mm-hmm.
My introduction to you was this picture here. So what happened was I was at the reading, the first reading, and Spike just walked around. He walked into your face. He took a Polaroid of you. He says, "This is CYNDA. She plays Clark." And that was my introduction to you, right? That was my intro to you at the time. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to get all off into the hair thing quite so much. I do just kind of want to share these couple of pictures too, just so people know. So obviously, this was your a look that I gave you in Mo
Mm-hmm.
Better Blues. That was inspired by my grandmother. So I kind of came up with that look under pressure. Now let me just talk about this. One of the things that I noticed in Mo Better Blues was I think that the women in the film were under some types of pressure. I know Joie was, and I think that you were too because you didn't really fit in. There was a boys' club that was going on, and we all had the nervousness of being the first time. And so my relationship with you is not I just tried to protect you as much as I could with what I had at the time because I could see that was a situation for a lot of different personal reasons, and we won't get all up into that you were not really comfortable because there was a big boys club over here, and then there were just a few of us with the ladies. So I kind of spent my time really just trying to, make sure that you were shielded as much as I could to kind of protect you in time. And I think it's reflected in what became of the work that I did with you and the work that I did with the ladies in the film. But there was a lot of not trauma, but strife that I could feel from you. You know, like I said, we all had the jitters. I was scared. I was definitely scared. I had my scares. You know, so that kind of fits into the party scene that you're talking about. Like, wow, you were in a situation that was very different for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I as soon as they called, rolling, I was completely comfortable because I'd been acting my whole life.
Right.
But as soon as they called cut, I didn't know who I was. I was not
Mm.
comfortable at all. In
Yeah.
I came from the church. I wasn't at that point. I had a couple of. I actually had gotten drunk one time by that point, and that was like the last time that I ever got drunk because
Mhm.
it was such a horrible experience. But I had just started having my first drink that year, and I just didn't. I wasn't from that world. When I was in college, everybody else was partying and doing all kind. They were doing ecstasy and doing all this stuff. I never went. I went to one party when I was in
Right.
college. One, and it was horrible for me. It was orgies and drugs and all this stuff that I just wasn't into. I wasn't into it, so I just wasn't from that world, and that is a part of entertainment, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I think it's great to have fun, but everything in moderation for me,
Mhm.
and so I wasn't comfortable in that world, and I was used to men, my family, the men of my family only. I didn't really know men outside my family. I dated a few guys, barely. I was only allowed to date by the time I was a senior in high school, and I was with the same boy for a long time. So I hadn't had that many experiences, and I was used to men alienating me in a way that they thought they would protect me,
Mhm.
but not used to the whole men coming on to me, men desiring me sexually. I mean, maybe that was happening, but I didn't know it because they would never
Right.
come at me like that. They
Right.
just wouldn't
Right.
come at me like that because my grandfather, because of my father, they were terrified of him.
Right.
So I was out of my element when they called cut.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thankfully I did have you there to protect my spirit, because by the time we started shooting that movie, my spirit had been really damaged,
Mhm.
really damaged by some of the experiences I had before we started shooting.
Yeah.
And, that's stuff I don't need to get into. But some really horrible things happened to me, but you were a part of what kept me going.
Yeah.
And
I could really, like I said, I'm looking back on that. I could really feel that. Like I said, I think we all, like, I can not say think we all, because I had a lot of fears because it was obviously my first experience. For me, it was like being thrown into the middle of the ocean and with no life raft and just told to swim. I mean, I'm blessed because that's what Spike gave me, but I thought he was going to give me more direction. So it's just like, here, boom, do it, and just come up with it, you know. And I had challenges too, so I had a lot of fears too. So I could feel your fears with it. I could feel the fears around you. I could feel the fears around me. So it was a kind of a thing where I just wanted you to feel protected in as much as I could. You know, I didn't get into your personal life and what you were doing, but you know, when I was on set, I was right there and near you all the time. You know what I mean? And when we were off set, I tried to, you know, comfort you as well. You know, fear is something else. You know, fear is something else. I've had a lot of fears in my life. You know, thank God for growing and overcoming that. You've come a long way. You know, you've come a long way.
yeah, I'm very, very thankful for the gifts that I've been given, because that is what sustained me also. The
Yeah.
fact that I knew what I was doing, even though I'd never done a movie before, I didn't know the lingo, I didn't know the terminology, I knew how to act,
Right.
and I know how to sing. So because of that preparation, I could hold on to that no matter what was happening personally. I could hold on to the fact that I could act.
Right.
Even though we had some stars brewing in that group, I had been acting since I was 5 years old. So I knew what I was doing, and that sustained me. And I kept telling myself, this is a job. This is
Good for
not for
you.
playtime for me. This is not entertainment for me. This is work. This is putting me out there so I can do what I've always dreamed of doing. This is what I've been preparing for however long.
Good
So
for you.
that got me through.
Let's just go back a little bit to your upbringing, like coming up, because obviously I want to know about some of your icons and some of your wow music, growing up. Obviously, you said you grew up in the church. You were surrounded by people within the church. Um, what were some of your influential musical artists that you had in your life growing up?
Well, I was fortunate because my father was the oldest of five children. And because my grandparents were so committed to their ministry, a lot of times my father ended up being the one that was raising his brothers and sisters. So when I was born, somebody was always with me, an aunt, an uncle, and their family. So I was surrounded by family at all times because they lived with us. Well, one of
Mhm.
my uncles, my uncle who was um, second born, he lived with us and he was a singer. He was a professional singer and he studied music. Not only did he was self-taught musician, singer, had his own bands. He was in some really big bands at the time, comparable to like the Commodores or
Mhm.
but a little bit more soulful than that. And so he introduced me to music. He had a keyboard in our basement, which was finished, and he lived down there. And I would go down and he taught me how to sing.
Wow.
He taught me and
Wow.
he introduced me to music. He
Wow.
played all kinds of music for me, a variety of music. At the time, R&B was really coming in, but that is not all I listened to. I listened to pop, I listened to rock, I listened to folk, I listened to gospel, I listened to classical, I listened to everything.
Wow.
So his favorites became my favorites because what was important to him in music was important to me, and that's lyrics, what you're saying with the song, the integrity of the music, the
Mhm.
soulfulness in which you sing. All those things were important to me. So, um, in the church, of course, Andre Crouch, the Clark sisters, all of these kind of people are the kind of music that I sang back in the 70s.
Mhm.
That's the music that I sang most. But with my uncle in the privacy of my home, I was learning about Gino Vanelli, who was one of my favorite singers for years and years and years. I was listening to Laura Nyro, Joni Mitchell. I was listening to Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I was listening to Elton John, Johnny Mathis, Barbara Streisand. All of the, I was listening to the Bell. When hip hop began, I was listening to hip hop.
Mhm.
So I had a salad bowl when it comes to music. You know, my salad bowl had carrots, it had broccoli, it had
Yeah.
lettuce, it had spinach, it had all different kinds of vegetables, and even had some sweet stuff, put in some raisins and some nuts. That's the kind of music. All music is what appealed to me. The
Mhm.
only style, believe it or not, that we didn't listen to and I did not have an education on was ironically jazz. I
Really?
didn't
Wow.
know jazz until I moved to New York City and met Spike Lee. I didn't
Interesting.
listen to Billie Holiday.
Right.
I didn't know Ella Fitzgerald. That never was in my salad bowl. It didn't
Mhm.
get added until I met Spike Lee and started doing this film. So that's why it was so difficult for me when I wanted to be a professional singer because I became Clark instead
Mhm.
of being CYNDA.
Yeah.
CYNDA
Yeah.
wasn't a jazz singer, Clark was.
Right.
But because of the popularity and the love of Harlem Blues, people wanted me to be that girl that I was playing on the screen instead of who I was. And that caused issues for me when it came to singing. But I
So,
didn't mention my favorite, Prince.
oh, okay.
Prince was
Okay.
my favorite.
Yeah, yeah.
Prince was my favorite. A lot of my family, well, it depends on which generation, but Hassan, Frederick, and I, the three oldest, we were all Prince fans, big time. I loved Michael Jackson. I thought he was really cute. I had a crush on him when I was a little kid, and I loved his music and I loved his lyrical content. But for me, it goes deeper than just the music. Who are
Mhm.
you? And I didn't know who Michael was. I couldn't tell who he was. He was hiding
Right.
all the time.
Right.
But Prince, I knew who he was.
Mhm.
And even though he was controversial, I loved who he was. I loved his honesty about his truth. I loved that about him. I loved his lyrics, even though I didn't know what a lot of the lyrics meant until I was grown. I was
Mhm.
singing about sex and didn't even know it. But I loved how he worked a song. I loved his emotional connection with the song, how he interpreted the words that he sang.
Yeah.
That has such meaning for me. What that I feel the song, even if I don't know what the song is about, I feel it and it moves me. And Prince
So
did that
so
for me.
so so when you were auditioned for the part in Mo Better Blues, uh, were did the music come at you first, or did they say, "Hey, we got this acting part for you, and you have to sing"? How did that work out? Was it
It
introduced
was,
both at the same time?
yeah, both were equally important. Both,
Okay.
as soon the very first audition I had, which was with Robbie Reed first, when I just showed up at the casting offices,
Yeah.
just showed up there before I actually started the real thing. When I saw in backstage that they were auditioning and this was the address, I just went there. I said,
Wow.
"Here I am,"
Wow.
and I was
Wow.
just changing my name to Cinda from Cindy because
Okay.
Cindy Williams of a Laverne and Shirley fame had the name and I couldn't
Oh.
use it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I changed my name to Cinda because I wanted to, I was very proud of the name Williams. So I
Right.
wanted to be Cinda and getting confused about that when I was writing my name differently than what I was saying. I had to sing immediately. Robbie wasn't interested in just hearing the words coming out of my mouth. She had to make sure that I could sing. And so I sang that day for her, and I had a lot of music in me. I don't remember
What?
what I sang.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. You have no idea what you said. You just had to come off the cuff and just sing, right?
Yeah,
Just
I just had to sing. And so the songs that I knew were, most of them were gospel and musical theater because I
okay.
had been studying musical theater for years
Ooh,
and
that's
I had
rough.
done many, many, many musicals. I mean, I don't
Wow.
even know. I can't count how many musicals I was in. Literally for a 7 year span of time in my growing up, I was in a musical nonstop for 7 years,
Wow.
to the next one, to the next one, between community theater, regional theater, summer stock, and college. I was constantly doing a musical. So I did Avita, I did West Side Story, I did a Two by Two, I did a whole bunch of things. As a matter of fact, I did Two by Two on an off Broadway. That was my very first job when I acting job when I moved to New York City. So and I think I do remember doing a couple of gospel songs when I sing in there. And I don't have a typical running, I don't do runs. I'm a very pure sound. And honestly, a lot of people weren't into me in the gospel world because I didn't do all that, because I
Mhm.
believe in the purity of tone. And even
Mhm.
though I appreciated other people, I felt like runs took away from the
Mhm.
spirit. It was a performance. It was gymnastics instead of interpretation.
Mhm.
It was for me. So I didn't do all that. So I think I sang a couple of those kind of songs. I wish I could remember. I may have sang God Bless a Child. I've been singing that for years. That was the
Okay.
one jazz song I knew, but it was still sung in the church. So I knew
Right.
that song.
And
And
you
when I read,
obviously
mm-hmm,
so you obviously you knew that you had to kind of get into the jazz framework and jazz mentality of the film as you came along, or did you know that in the beginning, or did you know that as you went
no,
along?
I really didn't until I met Spike Lee the next day.
Right.
I met Spike and I auditioned for Spike. And that was the beginning of 6 weeks of auditioning.
6,
For
huh?
6 weeks, I auditioned, not just, in a room, but Spike Lee calling me, talking to me about the character, building the character from our conversations, asking me who I thought she was. And I'm very good at improv. I can make stuff up on the spot. And I was creating this character and he went along with it. I created Clark.
Yeah,
And
understood.
so he gave me lists of two things because I was a movie illiterate because I didn't watch movies a lot when I was a kid. I didn't have time. I was too busy acting myself. He gave me a list of movies to watch. And he gave me a list of music to listen to.
Mhm.
So I dove deep into all that music I'd never heard before. And I learned how to do what they did. And it turned out, ironically again, that my vocal quality was very jazz oriented.
Mhm.
I sound
Mhm.
like I've been studying jazz for years,
Mhm.
but I had
Mhm.
not been.
Uh,
But I could do that. Hmm.
the Harlem Blues. That's the song. Such an amazing song, right? Was that intimidating for you to go into the studio with the heavyweights of jazz like Bill and, you know, uh, 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 Branford and, you know, Marsalis and, Terrence
This
Blanchard? What was that like for you?
this might sound arrogant, but it's not. It's true. It's true. I wasn't intimidated by anybody.
Good for you, girl. Good for you. I like
Mm-mm.
that.
Not when it came to singing and acting. I
Okay.
knew I was good. I wasn't intimidated by that, but I was definitely open to learning.
Yeah,
Raymond
yeah.
Jones was amazing.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Raymond's name because he produced the song, correct?
He not only produced it, he created the melody. He took the
Okay.
words from the W.C. Handy version of the song
Mhm.
and wrote the melody for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he worked with me. And I was very young and I hadn't found my voice yet, to be honest. I could sing, but what I can do now and what I did then is not the same. When I sing Harlem Blues now, it comes from a different place. It
Mhm.
comes from my belly. Back
Okay.
then, it just came from here. But
Mhm.
and I'd had seven at that year, 7 years, seven's a constant, but I had 7 years of classical training by then. So I could sing, but it took some more life and me finding my voice for me to find the range that I had. I have a very, very wide range. I can sing very low, almost tenor, and I can sing soprano one, soprano one.
How
So I
long
had a
how long
wide.
did it how long did it take you to really find this here as opposed to
I didn't
here?
find that until, I mean, I knew how to sing from my diaphragm.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not talking
yeah.
about the physicality.
No, 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 I'm
I'm
not
not,
talking about the physical. I'm talking
right.
about the
The
soulfulness of
soul,
it. That
it
yeah, that
honestly, it took healing for me to do that. It took therapy. My
okay.
speaking voice, I told this story yesterday, I think, on the PPC radio show that I do, how I did a movie and I was playing an FBI agent and it was a very difficult film for me. The directors were not cool to me, but one of their issues with me was that I just did not have a FBI's voice. I spoke
Mm.
too lightly and too. My voice was too high. I needed to have a deeper sound, and I didn't even know what they were talking about because I
Mhm.
didn't realize that I hadn't found my voice. But when I went to
Mhm.
therapy, my therapist told me, she said, "You know, you have two different voices. When you're speaking to authority, or you think you're speaking to authority, you get really high, and your voice gets really light, and whatever, and you talk like this. And that's the Cinda you know, right? That's who I was.
See, see.
But she said, but when you're talking about things and you're comfortable, you use your entire voice. You're very strong.
Wow.
You're very
Wow.
strong, and she started taping me. I could hear myself.
You
And I
could
was
hear
like,
you could hear it, huh?
I could hear
You
it.
could
And
hear
then
it?
I went back and
Wow.
started watching my old movies. And I recognized for the first time that I wasn't using my voice.
Wow, that's deep.
And I was intimidated by when people weren't kind to me, especially men, because I came from a patriarchal family where women were taught to shut up and listen.
Right, right.
I found my voice, and everything changed. My vocals changed, and my singing, when I talked to people, it changed because I wouldn't let myself cower anymore. It was
Yeah.
unconscious. And so I became conscious and I started using my full voice. And it made me a stronger woman. And it also changed my vocals when I sang and made me a better singer.
Do you ever go back and look at, like, I'm just gonna pick out Mo Better Blues because that's where I'm familiar with you singing. Do you ever go back and look at you singing this song? How does that make you feel if you revisit it?
Mm. No, I mean,
Yeah,
when I've seen it because people post it all the time and they
yeah,
send
yeah,
it to me,
yeah.
I laugh because I was such a baby. I was so young, and my vocals were so sweet and quiet, and I loved him. I had this high, really high voice, and it was so pretty. It was very pretty. I'm not so pretty anymore. I'm 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 real. I'm really
Yeah,
earthy.
from
I'm
here, right?
planted.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
grounded now. Where
yeah.
then I was very flighty and high, and it cracks me up when I listen to it because I sound like a child, but I was a
Wow.
child. I was
Yeah,
young. I was a baby,
yeah.
and and so when people hear me when I sing live, and people hear me sing the song now, they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's
Wow.
it's different." I'll sing the same melody, but use different parts of my voice and
Okay.
interpret it in a different way. Now I know what that song means. When I sang it then, I didn't know what it meant. It didn't mean
Right,
anything. It was just new to love. I
right.
hadn't had relationships yet, not real relationships.
Yeah.
I
Do you,
mean, like my boyfriends were sweet and everything, but I was very, I had a wall. I didn't allow myself to love deeply. It took a long time for me to allow myself to love deeply
that's a
because I didn't
wow.
have role models for that. I
Yeah.
didn't have role
That's
models. It was all acting.
yeah. That's a big deal. That's a lot of growth. That's a very, very, very deep story that you're sharing there. Um, like pulling. So obviously, it's taken you a long time to really get soulful, feel yourself, and just allow yourself to grow and to open up into things. When you obviously people you sing the song, so you do sing the song. Do people request it? Do you do it? I mean, how does that work for you? You
Constantly.
know?
That's the,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have some new music that I can't wait to release because I
Yeah.
want somebody to ask me to sing something different.
Something different. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Something different. I've been singing a
Yeah, yeah.
song for 31 years and I love
Long.
it, but I'm tired of it, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. But you got to give the people what they asked for. So I sing
Right.
it every time I perform. I have to sing it. I
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
to, and but I try to sing it different.
Yeah.
I don't want to repeat. Every time I sing, that's one of my gifts of improvisation. That's why I'm so perfect for jazz now.
Mhm.
I can do a song a different way every time. You'll hear it a different way. And I try to stick mainly to the melody, but I'll give them some different interpretations
Mhm.
because I have to be me, you know.
So do you do spoken word? Do you do poetry? Do you incorporate that into the things that you're doing? Because I'm not really sure. I know you do a myriad of things. So what do you incorporate into when you're out there in front of people?
Well, I haven't done spoken word. I've written a lot of poetry
Yeah.
in spoken word, but I have not performed it live unless I'm doing readings.
Okay.
But what I do is I preach. I preach, man. I
Wow.
mean,
Okay.
I,
All
I
right.
speak. When I between songs, I'm talking to people about life.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't just sing a song. Well, sometimes I do because you don't want to talk too much. But I try to encourage and uplift people when I perform. Like I said, it's a platform for me to communicate with people and give them hope.
Yeah.
It's a way for
Absolutely.
me to encourage others. So I talk to them. I talk
Yeah.
to them. Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about your. I know you're doing podcasts. Can you give me a little bit of insight into your podcast and things that you talk about? And what goes on with your
Well, I
podcast?
started on this journey years ago. Now it's, shoot, wow, it's almost 15 years ago.
Whoa.
Not the podcast.
Okay.
I had this experience where it was my birthday, and it was a big birthday, and I went on a yacht, my friend's yacht, with a group of my girlfriends and one male friend. And at the time, my husband and my daughter were upstairs, up on top of the deck, and we were having what's called pink panties, the drink, which is
What's it called?
one
It's
pink
called what?
panties.
Oh, pink
Pink
panties. Okay. Okay.
panties. It's
That's
one
a
of my
drink. I
favorite
didn't.
drinks.
Okay.
Right. And we were having pink panties because my friend Denise Payne, she and I would always get together, and either we'd have shots of tequila,
Uh-huh.
or we would have pink panties with vodka. And it's pink lemonade and vodka slushies. And we would vent every month. We would vent. So for my birthday, we had pink panties. She made them. We had my girlfriend from Hawaii who made all the nosh, or the appetizers, and from Hawaii. And we sat below deck, and for about, we hung out, but like within an hour of time, we were all circled up naturally. We didn't do it on purpose. We were in a circle, and we started talking about our lives. And literally within that hour, someone cried. We cried, we laughed, we were angry, we were thoughtful. Only one person didn't speak because
Mm.
she was more of a listener than a speaker, but her energy was with us. And by the end of it, it was like we all looked at each other, and my girlfriend Nisi said, "Pink Panty Confessions," and I said, "No," I said, "Pink Panty Confessions," and she said, "That's a book," and I
Mm.
said, "That's a movie, and that's a play, and that's a brand, and I'm going to do it." So that's where it began. So
Okay.
I first I wrote a play, then I wrote a musical. Now it's a series. Hasn't been produced yet, but it's on the way. Actually, God willing, this year it'll be done.
Okay.
And I wrote it loosely based on my life. At first, I was told you should do a one-woman show, but I've never liked doing things alone. I like ensemble casts.
Mm-hmm.
So I took stories from my life and I rewrote it in such a way that I don't mention names. I don't say that it's about me. And I separated it into multiple characters. So that's the first thing. Then I started blogging. I don't know why. I just started blogging. And then a publisher called me and was like, "I love your blogs. I want to make it into a book." So I wrote my first book, Pink Panty Confessions.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started writing all the music. I had the music that was in the movie or in the different mediums. I had the music that was inspired by the idea of women talking. But because of my fan base, which is 75% men, a lot of
Mm.
men bought my book expecting something different.
Oh, with that
And
name, with the name
with that
Pink
name,
Pants, yeah, Pink
they
Panties, yeah, man.
assumed, and somebody said this, and it rang true for me. They said either people are prudes or they're perverts. There's very little in between, right?
Prudes are perverts.
Prudes are perverts. So I had to change the name. I started off the podcast this year because my cousin Diane said you should do a podcast. So I was like, I ain't doing no podcast. Black people don't listen to podcasts
Right.
because that's my primary audience. She's like, teach them. So that's what I started doing. And I had to change the name because I had people complaining because there wasn't no sex in there. It was all self-help.
Oh.
It was self-help. And the reason why I did it myself, because my original idea was to do a book about people confessing, talking
Yeah.
about their lives, talking about their
Yeah.
stories, their survival, blah,
Story.
blah, blah. But I couldn't get people to open up to me. So I said, okay, well, I'll model for them and I'll talk about myself. So I wrote a book with all, it's not chronological, but all these stories from my life, from stuff I had been writing for years.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that was the concept for the podcast. So every other week I would do a single solo a podcast about something I've learned in my life, and then the next week I'd have a guest. But then
Mhm.
it transformed into a radio show, so I still do the podcast. Now it's guests every week. So I still share my own stories, but in the context of whatever my guest is talking about. So
Okay.
I'm really excited that that is doing well and it is growing and it's spreading.
Mhm.
And it's another way to introduce people to the world and their stories so people know they're not alone.
Yeah. A person's story is powerful. Everybody has a story, and everybody's story is a powerful thing. Some people are very reluctant about sharing their story, so obviously you have to be very genteel with them, guide certain people along, bring it. You seem to have the nature to be able to pull that out of people sometimes. Is that easy for you?
That's why I've been the set shrink.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not trying to pull it out of people. They come to me and they
It
talk to me.
comes.
They
Yeah,
come
yeah.
to me. But in this case, whenever people come to me and they about being on my platform, I tell them, I will introduce you, I will introduce your product, or I will tell them about you and all of that, but you've got to open up and you got to be real with my audience because that's what this platform is.
Yeah.
It's introducing new people to audiences that they wouldn't reach otherwise. But it's also you sharing a vulnerable part of yourself so people
Absolutely.
can relate to you on a different level. It's not just you. That's why I like Prince as opposed to, not as opposed because I love Michael Jackson, but I like Prince more because he was vulnerable with who he was. He told the truth about who he was, if you liked it or
Right.
not.
Right.
People, if they can connect to you on a personal level, will support you even more in your career.
Yeah.
No matter what
Being.
you do, if you own a
Yeah.
restaurant or if you're a singer or if you're a mailman, if people hear your story and can relate to you, they connect and they support you.
Yeah. Being vulnerable and sharing vulnerability is a really scary thing sometimes with people. I found for me, I'm like you. I like to share vulnerabilities or even mistakes. I mean, I have fears, but then once they pass and once I look back on them, you know, it gives me a different perspective about myself, and then it's also very good to share with people because I think I shared that with you when I spoke to you some time ago, and I said, Cinda, I was really nervous when we worked on Better Blues. I had a lot of fears, and you were like, "Whoa, I would have never known that," you know. And sharing those vulnerabilities, people tend to flock to you a little bit. They have a little different kind of respect for you, fears, you know. That's good. That's fantastic. So, Cinda. So I want to pull some records out for you, and just you don't have to go into really deep. I know you mentioned a couple of these people, right? Just okay. Let me just pull this out, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Angie Bofield.
Mm.
Tell me what you think about her as an artist.
Well, she did exactly what I strive to do. She was able to take music and take lyrics and interpret it in such a way that you felt the emotions of the songs.
Mhm.
And she moved you with her tones and her words. And I literally will cry. She moved me to tears. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And when I was
Wow.
younger, not much did that for me.
Wow.
I was very, I didn't allow myself to feel. It was a way to protect myself. I wouldn't allow myself to feel. So I didn't cry, I didn't
Hmm.
talk,
Hmm.
but her music moved me. It moved,
Wow.
it moved me like that. And I listened to her, and she is definitely one of my influences.
Okay. Here's another one for you.
Oh, Barbara Streisand, technically one of the best singers in the world.
Yeah.
So She knew how to control her voice in such a way that she can move you with the tones and with the way she might hold out a line of lyrics or the or a note. And she had so much vocal control. It was amazing. And I just love her.
Here's another one for you, because I know you mentioned this to me as well. Laura Nyro.
Oh my gosh.
And let me just say, on this particular album, that's who's backing her up, LaBelle.
Wow. She again she was an amazing storyteller. I'm all about telling stories, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
And I learned that a lot of that from Laura Nyro. She just every song she sang had meaning. Every song she sang you could connect to and understand her path. She communicated with people with her music.
Do you write? Do you write?
Yes.
Or do you, and lyrics and or music? I don't know how intense you are with music.
I definitely write. I've been writing for I don't know for years. I've been writing. I would not say I'm the best lyricist because I'm too talky. And especially for popular music, you have to contain the words. And I'm not really good with containing words. I'm very gregarious. I talk a lot. And so when I write music,
I
when
love
I
that.
write
I love
songs, they have a lot of words. And
Yeah,
so I'm not the best lyricist, but I can tell a phenomenal story and give those lyrics to a real lyricist that can
Right,
take that and make it into a really phenomenal song. And that's
right,
like what I've done with the Panty Confessions, the musical. I have real lyricists and real producers and real people that really do that. Take what I'm trying to say, take my words. So I'm still a writer on the
yeah.
song and make it into something that people will relate to and that doesn't say too much with words.
Now here's another one that you mentioned to me earlier, right?
Gino Vanelli, for the longest time, my favorite singer. I did not get a chance to because of finances to see a lot of live performances, but I saw him right before he passed away. He every element that I said with the earlier people, he had it all. He had the vocal control. He was a storyteller. He can move you. Hi. He can move you with his word. I just saw another cardinal.
Yeah, yeah,
They're my angels. He can move you with the words. He had every element that
yeah,
I adore about
yeah,
singers in him.
yeah. When I have to tell you, I was introduced to him right when he came out, and his live performances, some of the most memorable shows I've ever seen. Of course, full of women, because he had, pure sex appeal
Mm-hmm.
just beyond. You know what I mean? I mean, I was surprised women weren't throwing their bras up on stage like Tom Jones, right? But he was an amazing, like you said, control and singer, and the performance. It was just all in one package. What a great artist he was, Gino Vanelli. I don't think a lot of people really know about the power that he had live. I mean, he's great on
Mm-hmm.
records too, but live he could really serve it up for you. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
had some great lyrics too. I mean, one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite songs is like back in the day before Jungle Fever was Mama Coco. Like
Yes.
whoa, he's got a song singing about a black women. I'm like, oh, Mama Coco. Before Jungle Fever, right? I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, all right, dude, you get a little check mark from me. You know what I mean? For sure, Gino Vanelli. Another person you kind of mentioned too was Stevie Wonder. What like Stevie? Obviously, I mean, we don't have any words for Stevie, right? I mean, lyrically, packaging it up. I mean, Stevie,
His music, I knew every word to every song, every
absolutely,
word to every song, and would copy
absolutely,
his licks. Whatever he
absolutely.
did vocally, I learned how to do.
Yeah,
And he was an activist through his music.
yeah,
He told the truth. of the way things really were for people of color in this world.
Yeah.
But he wasn't judgmental in it. He didn't
Yeah.
say you're wrong and we're right. He said Black Lives Matter before we
Right.
said Black Lives Matter in
Right.
his music.
Yeah. 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 I saw him many times because obviously when he spearheaded back in the day trying to get the holiday for Martin Luther King, so he spent a lot of time in Washington D.C. and he didn't really have to come out like a Malcolm X, like a Martin. He did it through his music. He moved people through his music to activism, to moving forward and stuff like that. I mean, what can you say? Stevie, there are no words for Stevie. You know what I
No
mean?
words.
Obviously, no words for
Yeah.
Stevie. You know what I mean? One of my favorites, Stevie Wonder. So Cinda, tell us. I want you to just kind of tell people a few of the things, how they can contact you, what you're into, some of your shows. You got to plug away here and just you know give us the deal because you're into so much and I don't know everything that you're into. So give me a little synopsis of it, and how people can
Well,
contact you, what you're into, your shows.
yes, I'm. Facebook is always a way to reach out. Instagram, I have a few pages on. I actually have to start another page, I think, on Facebook because people like the personal page. So there's CYNDA Williams, there's CYNDA Will. There's some fake pages that aren't mine. There's some fan pages. So you got to make sure it's really me.
How do you
Um,
how do people really get around that? It's a really hard thing on Facebook to tell and to not to tell those kind of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because
Did
they draw all they follow my pages and they take
Yeah.
the stuff from my page and
Oh,
post
that's
it
what it
on
is.
theirs.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, okay, okay.
But
I
you
see.
can't reach me on Messenger that way. You can't reach
Okay.
me that way. So it's not me if it's one of those pages. Or if they've taken shots of me naked in a movie, that's definitely not me.
Mhm.
They've
Mhm.
done that.
Okay.
But and then I have my fan page that I try to do different things on the official fan page of Cinda Williams. I try to do things a little different on there. It's more about business than it is about personal. So I'm always posting the things that I have coming up and coming out. I am literally on podcasts and interviewing all the time. I think last year I worked on 5 different projects, one television, it's called Stepdads, and several movies that are coming out this year.
Okay.
I had a really great summer. I worked a lot,
Fantastic.
and all very good projects. Just look me up to find out. I'll post about them. I'm on the radio 3 times a week at this point,
Mhm.
on my own platforms or with my DJ Kid Disco, my partner, and he's the producer and owner of the station on Grown Folks Radio, GROWNE, folksradio.com. And when things open up, I'll probably be back to singing, doing some
Yeah.
live performances. I
Are
perform
you?
all the time in DC.
Yeah. Are you? I know you were doing some things pre-COVID, going down to Washington, doing Blues Alley and places like that. So obviously, COVID has kind of changed the whole perspective with that. So you're going to be back
Right.
to that hopefully when things kind of die down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do some shows every once in a while. I'm probably gonna. I got some hopeful things that are happening in the islands, in the Caribbean. So I'll probably be doing some singing there, and I'm writing. Like I said, Pink Panty Confessions. Hopefully that's going to be a television series soon, and that's
Cool.
a musical. So I got that. I got another script that I wrote. Or shoot, I have like 3 things out there that are getting pitched right now, that I
Wow.
wrote. I'm writing on 2 new scripts, that are, one is based on a true story. No, both of them are based on a true story, but one of them I'm working directly with the actual person. Her name is Renata Frazier. She wrote a book called The Enemy in Blue, and I'm helping her write the screenplay for that, and we're going to start pitching that. What else, man? It's so much. Like I said,
Yeah.
I got a lot going on. So if
That's
you
good.
check me out on Facebook or check me out on Instagram, Twitter, I don't spend a lot of time on there, but I share on there. So what I'm doing is on there. So those ways, I'm not doing all of social media because I just don't have time.
Yes.
But you can always find me there.
And let me go back to the beginning because there's another thing. You are a mother, so your daughter is big enough that you don't have to supervise her
Yes.
anymore. I'm not trying to reveal ages or things like that, but you don't have to do adult supervision, right? Anymore.
No, not. I'm still mama. You know what I mean?
Okay.
When COVID hit, she had to go somewhere. Her
Yeah, yeah.
dorms finally shut down. She stayed in her dorms as long as they were open
Okay.
until June. In June, she
Wow.
came back with me. And she's been with me because they didn't open the schools, but now they're reopened. So she's leaving me, going back to New York City this
Okay.
month. And I'm going to miss her so much because not only am I a mother to her, I'm a friend to her. She's
Yeah.
probably my best friend. Um, there were always boundaries when she was younger, but now that she's older, she's a woman.
Yeah.
She's a confidant, and I don't trust anybody like I trust her. I trust my daughter more than anyone. Anyone.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love her. I can talk to her about everything. I can be ugly with her. I can be honest with her, and she can be the same with me.
Has
So
has has
I love her.
COVID brought you all closer,
Yes,
within this space? Because I find
yes.
that I've had conversations with a lot of my musicians on my channel here, and that's one of the blessings, if I could say the word
Mm-hmm,
blessing, about
mm-hmm,
COVID is obviously as a musician and actress, you're on the road a lot. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
And now you're close in quarters with your family. So a lot of my friends and musician friends say, wow, this has been really good because I haven't had time to spend with my wife or my husband or my son or my daughter. You know what I mean? So I would
Well,
imagine that's a
Sophie and I were always together until she went away to
okay.
school. She's. I had 1 year without her. She stayed with her dad for a year. But growing up, she was my right hand woman. She's always been there as soon as she was born. But for some reason, I think she's maturing. She was a hot mama. You know what I mean? She's a
Oh yeah.
Leo, opinionated. She's sometimes not nice. And I'm a Taurus. Put a Taurus and a Leo together, that gets kind of raucous. Um, yes, but she's maturing, and she's learning how to communicate in such a way that is respectful. She doesn't have to prove her independence because I've proven to her for long enough that I respect her independence and I
Yeah.
respect her choices no matter what they are, if I agree or not. So we are closer than ever, and I'm going to miss her so much, but I'm very
Yeah.
excited for her future. It's time for her to fly and be Sophia
Yeah. Yeah.
Gabrielle.
Yeah. That's good, Cinda. Cinda, let me just say something to you. It's been a real pleasure talking to you today. You used to watch the sci-fi movies, and it'd be a movie about somebody would go out into outer space, and then they would come back, and the world has changed, or the world is different. That's how it's been for me because obviously I haven't seen you in X amount of time, but I can tell you
Mhm.
it's so wonderful just to see how much you've grown, how much you've blossomed, what the person you've become. That's an amazing thing. So I just hats off to you. You know what I mean? Hats off to you. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. You know?
Well, I hope that this is not the end because I like seeing your face and I want to come to Canada and hang out and
Absolutely.
maybe perform up there, and
Absolutely.
because you were truly a friend to me, and now that we reconnected, I'd like to keep it that way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Any words of wisdom you want to share with anybody, or come on, give me
Well,
something.
yes, on my radio show yesterday, the thing that we were talking about, I wanted to say, and I believe in, start claiming your words. Start claiming life over yourself. If you hear yourself saying, I'm tired, I'm stupid, I'm nothing, I'm this, cancel those words out and start claiming life over yourself because there's power in the words. That's why I talk. That's why I say out loud how I feel and I claim
Yeah.
life. I am prosperous. I am blessed. I am a child of God. I am. Start claiming that over yourself and be honest and emotional about it. Allow yourself to feel it and know it because we are so much more than we know. We're so much more blessed than we recognize. And you
Mhm.
are an amazing person.
Thank you, Miss Cinda. I from here. I love you. Thank you very, very,
Love
very
you.
much for taking the time. Like I said, it's been a big gap in between, 31 years. You know, we've narrowed it down now, and let's just keep it moving forward. And I want to talk to you soon, and contact me anytime, okay? All right?
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, all right? I appreciate it, and thank you for taking the time with me today, okay?
Mhm.
Peace, baby.